super excited. I'm glad you said yes to having a conversation with me. I remember when I was in Hawaii back it's already been like a couple months. That was June now. After hanging out, I was like, it'd be so sweet to interview you on my podcast because so much of how you live is what I promote and what I help people with health coaching. And yeah, so I want to give you a little bit of an introduction. I have the pleasure of sitting down with Dave Story, a 75-year-old retired pilot living
Yes.
in beautiful Kailua, Hawaii. While many people think of aging as a time of slowing down, Dave here is living proof that health and vitality, they don't have to fade with age. He spends his weeks playing pickleball, tennis, practicing yoga every single day, and fueling his body with primarily whole foods. And what I think makes Dave's story even more unique is his dedication to something called macrobiotics. It's a way of eating and living that has really shaped his philosophy around health and inspired his lifestyle. In every sense, Dave here is the epitome of passion, discipline, and how the right habits can really help you thrive in your later years in life. So I wanted to interview you, Dave, because you
Okay.
represent something so powerful. It really shows just, I mean, by knowing you, that your age, it doesn't determine your health, and it's never too late to live vibrantly. So thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for that great introduction. And yes, I will just correct. I quit playing tennis about 10 or 12 years ago, and I do play pickleball. And I try and bicycle regularly along with the yoga practice that I do. Matter of fact, yesterday I did the Lanikai Beach Yoga with my friend Bob. And I've been doing that regularly every Saturday and Sunday, and then here at home 2 or 3 days a week in addition to that. And it does help keep me more vibrant. And I've had quite a journey about my health. Macrobiotics was the beginning,
Yeah.
um, and turned me on to the fact that I'm responsible for my health, not outside forces. And I've evolved since then over all those years. And it's been a beautiful journey that's finally gotten me to a place where I'm pretty comfortable with my practices.
Yeah. Well, I want to know a bit about what inspired you to take your health so seriously. Like, let's go back to kind of maybe not like the beginning, but what was that thing that you said was like, okay, it's time for me to get serious about this? Like, what made you dive in?
I will. That's a beautiful question. And I spent my whole life struggling with the fact that I was a very thin human being and trying to be bigger and trying to be healthful. I started lifting weights at my house when I was 13 and wondered why I was always getting sick and feeling crummy and having horrible colds, and then they called them flus, and I was struggling with deep sore throats and mucousy eliminations that would happen regularly. And at a young age, I joined a health club, 19, and started lifting weights. And that was my first introduction to Dave, you should stop eating junk food. And I was like, oh, but I live on Pepsi and fast foods. No, you need to stop doing that. And so that began a journey of realizing that I was a little more in control of my health. And but I would still get sick periodically, pretty regularly, because my body doesn't gain weight; it gets ill, which is turns out is a blessing because it was a signal that I needed to be better to myself about what I was eating and what my lifestyle was. And got sick, and I went to my doctor, who I totally trusted, and it set both my broken arms at young ages. And he said, "Oh, Dave, you're sick with the flu. You need this jab to get rid of it." And I went, "Oh, okay, give me that." And then the next day I thought, "Oh, I'll feel great." Well, I didn't. I still was sick as could be, and it took 10 days to 2 weeks to eliminate all the toxins out of my body. And then I thought, okay, I'm gonna keep working out. And I lifted weights and I gained 25, 30 pounds over a number of years lifting weights and trying to eat more healthfully. But I still kept getting sick. So 6 months, 8 months later, I'm sick as could be again. And I went to the same doctor and I said, hey, I thought you gave me this flu shot that was gonna keep me healthy. He said, oh, that was the last strain. You need this one. And so I went, oh, okay. And the next day I thought, I'll be feeling great again. And no, I was still sick as could be. And it took about 10 days to get well again. And so I stopped going and getting shots. From that moment forward, I think I was 21 or something like that. And I said, okay, those things don't work. And then I was fortunate enough to meet my wife, who today is our, sorry, Dave has a tendency to get emotional sometimes. Today's our 48th wedding anniversary. We've been together
Damn.
50 years. And she and I both knew that the regular allopathic medicine system was not working. And we started investigating alternative methods. And Debbie handed me, my wife handed me a book on macrobiotics. And I started reading it and I went, oh, this is crazy. This is too out there. And then, like about 6, 8 months later, I picked it up and started reading and go, oh, Debbie, this macrobiotic book, they know what they're talking about. We need to do this. And she said, you idiot, I showed you that 6, 8 months ago. And now you're saying, and so from that moment forward in mid 70s, 77 or so, we started practicing macrobiotics in a very strong way. And I still think it's a very good ideology and it's morphed and has some good practices in it, but I've changed over the time. And so has macrobiotics about what they recommend and how you should eat, because initially it was 50% grains, 30 to 40% vegetables, 10 to 15% proteins, and maybe 5 or 10% fruits. And it also adjusted for what climate you lived in and what your activity was and that sort of thing. And it just made sense. So that was the beginning of a journey that took me to this place where I now feel real confident about my health practices. It keeps me healthy, even though I still have that thin body.
Yeah. Wow. I first want to say happy anniversary. It's
Thank you.
today 48 years.
48 years of marriage, and we lived together for 2 years prior to that, so we've been together for 50 years.
That in itself is very inspiring when it comes to relationships, especially in today's day and age. And I know that's not the topic of conversation, but that is huge. So big hugs to both of you, you and Debbie today. I'm celebrating you from afar.
Thank
And
you.
how special to have had your partner be that person to kind of intro that into your life too.
Right.
Yet it was still you who took it in your own time. 6 or 8 months later, you're like, okay, no, now it's time for me,
Hey, now it's time.
right? We can't change people. Humans can't change humans, but it sounds like you were pretty aligned in the path of like, oh yeah, this is something that is really interesting. And so
Right.
you kind of discovered it through Debbie and then you started living it, but now you've said it's changed a lot since then. So, what are your practices now? Give a little bit more about like what exactly macrobiotics are, but like when it comes to nutrition and health, what does that look like then versus now?
Yeah, then it was more of a macrobiotic lifestyle, which I said, like I said, was a 40 to 50% grain-based diet, whole grains, rice, oats, and things like that. And then 30 to 40% fresh vegetables and getting your protein from plants, uh, beans and the like. But even early on, we still, since we lived in the tropics, ate a little more fruit and fish and things like that. And over time, we've sort of evolved to realizing that um, those sort of strictnesses aren't necessarily where we needed to be, and we've incorporated some more meats into our diet and things, but still I lean towards getting my protein from beans, fish, chicken, and a little bit of red meat, but only if it's in a dish that somebody prepares. I try and still eat more vegetarian style and not, and I also don't eat many things made from milk, cow's milk. Um, Unfortunately, our cow's milk is not as pure as it ought to be. They do a lot of uh, things to it that make it unhealthy. Heat it to 235 degrees twice, make additives to it. And so a lot of the milk products are not from raw cow's milk like they used to be in the day. So I eat a little bit of dairy now and again if it's in things, and have incorporated eggs in my break fast. It's another thing I do now more frequently. I fast till 1 or 2 in the afternoon before I begin to eat. I call it my break fast instead of breakfast.
Yeah, I love how
And
you said that.
that's worked really good for me. I also recently listened to your last podcast, which I really liked a lot, on mindful eating, which is something I'm trying to do more of. And so that was a real good guidelines for me to start having a more mental way of doing what I know we should be doing that you laid out in a really good way in that podcast.
Thank
Um,
you. But I,
so I'm real good now about trying to uh, that's another thing that's unusual for people to hear from me because I'm so thin, is that I overate all my life because I didn't want to lose an ounce of weight. I always wanted to keep my weight on. It was a mental thing. And so I've learned to accept my weight and to eat the proper quantity because I have a new mantra now. Knowledge, which we get through things like studying and listening to people like you. Um, Discipline. That was my hardest one, was keeping the discipline for what I knew from my knowledge to implement in my daily life so that I wasn't just overdoing it. And so I had to have discipline, especially if I did a little cannabis in the evening and the munchies set in, and I would just continue to eat unnecessarily. And so the discipline has helped a lot in my mantra. And then the other one is that, yes, quality of food is important. Like you've said, or whole organic foods is the primary focus of how I consume. But quantity is more important above that, in my opinion,
Mhm.
than quality. But quality, they go hand in hand, quantity and quality. So my mantra is knowledge, discipline, quantity, quality, that I try and repeat to myself. And now I'm going to introduce into that mindful eating and mindful thought.
those are a great bundle of words to bring in together. They all kind of play in the whole, I mean, you practice yoga and that yogic philosophy of not really over
Mhm.
consuming, using your mind to help you tune into that discipline. Like it's all mindfulness at the end
Right.
of the day, which is, it's inspiring to see like those in the older generation practicing this because so many people, and I speak from conversations I've been having with friends, clients, acquaintances my age, they assume automatically that aging means we decline in our health. And it comes up in the way of like, oh, like my back, like I'm getting older and I feel this, or my knees. And it's like, it seems that anyone they turn 25 and they're like, it's all downhill from here. So, something I'd like to ask is, what do you wish more people understood about getting older in relation to your health?
Just the importance of living that whole balanced lifestyle that keeps you in harmony. Because I've another one of my sayings over the years has been that the animals, humans, gravitate towards perfect health, and we constantly do things to knock it off kilter and upset that. And so as you age, yes, the body tends to deteriorate and decline. But if you think of it as something that you need to keep in harmony as often as you can, and even though I've not listened to my mantra over many of the years, we 90% have for 50 years. And so as a result, our decline is not as severe as our peers is. my joints tend to do okay. My body is able to do pickleball and yoga and bicycling still and paddleboarding. I paddleboard on the ocean pretty frequently, which I think is another good therapy, getting grounded in nature. Um, and so, yes, the aging, we joke about it all the time. I joke about it. I say to somebody when I get up and I'm creaking a little bit, I go, "I'm not as young as you used to be," and uh, um, um, but through those practices of being in harmony, we live a pretty full and comfortable life. I'm able to keep up with my two grandkids that are 6 and 2 still, and that's a real big reward to be able to do that as we age.
Absolutely. And I see that. I mean, anytime I've been out there, it seems like you're running around more than I am. And I'm like, if he can do it, what is my excuse? Why am I sitting here and, vegging?
Right.
Do you feel younger than your age?
That's a great question. I just I just noticed with my peers and our friends that are our age, they're not as able to be as active as we are. That we're tending sometimes now to get friends that are 10 or 15 years younger because we're able to keep up with them, whereas our peers at our age are not uh, being able to keep up with the things that we're doing at this age. So it is nice. When I talk to one of the practice of yoga I do is Bikram's yoga, and now they call it hot yoga
Mhm.
uh, because he's been exiled to Mexico because
Yeah.
he's a predator. But his practice and his 26 posture routine is awesome and excellent, and it's changed a lot of people's lives. And when I talked to him at a seminar he conducted here 25 years ago or so in Hawaii, we both said, it's the fountain of youth. Doing yoga and eating whole organic foods, it retards the aging process. It slows down the aging process. So
Mhm.
I feel good about that.
Yeah, no, and I mean we see that. And as a yogi myself too, I can easily have my biased opinion and say, "Oh yeah, I believe it, just do yoga." It seems like for me too, the older I get, the younger I feel, and I pay
All
so
right.
much of that to yoga and nutrition and truly looking at food as medicine, which I kind of want to go back to because I skimmed past it. Like earlier on in your, I mean, life, you said you went to a doctor multiple times, and the doctor, the Western medicine doctor, was like, "Here, this should make you feel better." And it did the
Right.
opposite. And then again,
Right.
"This should make you feel better." And it did the opposite. And then it was like, "Oh, here's a new strain." I'm curious what your thoughts are on that now that you have been living whole foods, macrobiotics, an active lifestyle as your medicine since then. What are your thoughts on Western medicine?
Oh boy. Good one. Um, yes, Western medicine, the allopathic medicine system is crimes against humanity.
Hmm.
It's a problem. And it was proved over the last 4 or 5 years as they tried to control us and tell us what to do and didn't make anybody healthier because their system is diagnosing you as having a problem and then giving you some sort of pharmaceutical to take care of that. And one of the things I've learned over these many years of studying health is we don't need remedies. The remedy is already here. Our body allowing it to be in balance and in harmony is the remedy. There's no immune system. The whole body is an immune system, but it's not immune because it fights off illness. It's immune because it stays in harmony and has perfect health. And so to always be looking for remedies, even in the natural world, um, sometimes is overplayed. Oh, you need this or you need that. What you need is just to be in harmony. Um, and do things that allow it to be in harmony, even things like how you cook your food. You know, the ultimate, well, according to macrobiotics, which I think is true, uh, the ultimate way to cook your food is with an open fire. Well, we're not about to do that in all our houses. So, and then a gas range or a gas fire is another good way to do it. But not to do things like microwave your food, which takes about 20% of the nutrients away from the quality of the food. So the current medical system doesn't teach you any of those things. Our current medical professionals don't take any courses in nutrition or how to be in harmony or how to be in good health. They just learn how to diagnose things and then give you some sort of medicine for it. And even in the natural world, they're always looking for, oh, you need this to help you be healthy. Well, maybe you might need an assistance of some sort of herbs or things that help you guide you out of a very toxic situation. But for the most part, you just need to live a healthy, harmonious life, and your body will go there.
Absolutely. That's such a great answer and response. And I really love that you use the word harmony. I think, again, this is why we're talking. I'm so drawn to the way that you think. But like, what does it actually mean to be in harmony for someone who's
Mhm.
listening and they're like, they have a headache, they take an Advil. They have an ache in their body, they take a Tylenol. Like, what does it mean to be in harmony, true harmony? Or what does it take to get there?
Right. That's such it, it's the experience we feel when we are doing the natural things to have our bodies feel okay. It doesn't have to feel, it's okay to be on an even plane. You don't have to be way up here, but you certainly shouldn't be way down here not feeling well. Being in harmony is just allowing your body to gravitate towards that natural place that it wants to be in. People are always looking for something to make them feel extra. And just being in harmony is, eating right, exercising, getting out in the sunshine, putting your feet on the ground, all those things that we feel when we're well. When we're not well, taking a pill to feel better isn't the answer. That's just another thing to give you a toxin to make you not in harmony. Um, I've learned here lately that because I get pains and injuries and different things doing all the things I do, or as I age, there are aches and pains that are there. Um, I try and use natural plants for those things, not anything from the drugstore or the medical profession, but different plants. Cannabis is one. Um, uh, Different psychedelics, psilocybin, ayahuasca, those are other good plants for our mental health and keeping us in balance. Um, I recently, over the last 4 or 5 years, learned about a thing called kratom. I don't know if you've heard of that, but and it's also pronounced kratom. Um, and it has varying properties, and it's a plant grown in Southeast Asia that they sell in many of the smoke shops in our town and many towns around the country. And every once in a while, if I have a real strong pain from an injury, or I don't get headaches too much because I tend not to. Headaches are caused by a too yin of a condition, too much sugar, too much coffee, too much, even marijuana, cannabis is yin. Um, and so you just need to eliminate those things and the headache will dissipate. Drink water, drink good quality structured water, um, will help you get to that harmonious state. But at times I will use the red vein kratom because I'm having a hard time sleeping because my leg hurts because I injured it bicycling or something. And then that just puts me into a nice mellow state. It takes away the discomfort and allows me to go to sleep, but it doesn't have the side effects the next day of a petrochemical pharmaceutical does. And
Yeah.
so I use plants if I have to, but mostly I use just living a more strict lifestyle of whole organic foods and drinking clean water. Matter of fact, most of my drink is 99.9% water.
Mm. Yeah, I'm digesting everything you just said, like your answer to finding that harmony. I think for those probably listening, like our society, it lives in extremes. So like you said, like coming back to the word that came for me was baseline. Like come to your
Mm,
baseline, like how you exist as a human who, doesn't have any stimulants, like you're just existing. It's maybe even call it peace, like you're feeling complete
peace and
internal.
equilibrium.
Yeah, like your equilibrium, that word was hard. But the other things, they take us into extremes either way up or way down. And so we're constantly, society's trying to find this baseline or equilibrium, but they're jumping from extreme to extreme to extreme through putting these different things in our bodies. And so Kratom, I've heard of that. Kratom was something I was seeking out. Actually, last time I came home from Hawaii when I was in the moped accident, which you can remember, I came
Mhm.
home, I was in so much pain. And
Mm.
for those listening, I've already kind of talked about it, but I'm on the same wave as Dave. I don't take any pharmaceuticals. I don't put that stuff in my body. I came home and I couldn't find it. I couldn't get access to it. There was nowhere.
Mm.
It was so difficult to find, yet it's so easy to go into a drugstore and get any of these things that, are a quick band-aid fix, send you up here into the extreme of like, yay, now I feel better, but take you way back down into the next extreme if you don't continue to use it. So
Right.
maybe for people who are listening who say they're stuck in that. They're kind of stuck in those extremes of just taking whatever, getting the yearly flu shot. Like how would you, because you live harmoniously, how would you suggest or kind of guide them to move more into that natural way of living?
Right. Yeah, I think, and it's difficult. It's easy for me to say because I've been practicing for so long, and so now I know what to do. But for somebody who hasn't been, it's hard to make that transition. I have a couple of friends that I have that are my age that have serious health issues, and I say, "Hey, I'll come over and prepare meals for you for 2 months," and they just say, I can't. I just can't make that kind of a leap. I'm used to the way I do things. But what I say to them, and I think it's had impact on this one good friend of mine, to just eliminate certain things that are extra toxic. Start with a small thing. Don't make a big leap all the way to where I am. Make a small step of eliminating something like the sugars and some of the, more processed, ultra processed type foods. Try and eliminate those and try and prepare more of your food at home. Um, but it is difficult because equilibrium and balance, macrobiotics talks about this as well. And not that I'm any expert on macrobiotics and don't really follow it strictly at this point in time. But I do. I mean, I think they really have it. Is they talk about yin and yang and the condition of being in balance. And it's so important because there's extremes of yang and extremes of yin that are problematic. So if you can just bring that as close in as you possibly can, eliminate the extremes of things, that balance will come more easily.
Mhm. Definitely. And that's such a yogic way of life too. It seems like, I mean, I'm not surprised that they kind of like flow into one another. The macrobiotics and yoga philosophy, they're very similar. And I mean, I'm still young. I have a lot of life to live. I believe I will live a long time. That's the goal anyways. But it seems like the journey this far has been me seeking balance. Like that seems like life's journey. And so someone who's got, many years on me, what do you believe? And this might be a big question, but I feel like you're here for it. What do you believe like the actual purpose of life is?
I love that. You're good, Kelsey. Um, uh, to live in harmony and to live in balance, the Dalai Lama said, "We're here to help each other," which you're doing with your business and your lifestyle, which is awesome. And if we can't do that, do no harm. And I think that's a big part of why we're here. I had this conversation with my nephew, and we had he was on a different side of it, but I believe we're here to survive and do well, to fully understand what this life is. We don't fully understand what this is all about, and I think we're every week, month, year, we're more and more understanding what this existence is all about. And it's a beautiful thing to get to experience. We're so blessed to have this life that we have and to have friends and family that we enjoy being around. And the goal is to be more in harmony and thrive as I see my grandchildren thriving, also living the terrain lifestyle. It's just, and then to keep going until we more completely understand what this life is all about. Because it's deeper than what we understand with our five senses, because we only have our five senses, although we now have very strong scientific methods of exploring way outside of our five senses, which I think is a beautiful thing. And along the way, realizing that this love over fear is an important way to live and to gain knowledge of what this existence is really all about. But ultimately, at this moment in our time, it's about being present and um, just loving one another and helping one another.
Yeah. Oh, beautiful, beautiful answer. I was gonna say, I love your shirt. Those listening, not watching, his shirt says love over fear. And yeah, it's again, even though I'm much younger than you, I resonate so much with that deep wisdom that you've just shared of we are meant to just love and help and serve and be present. And again, in a society which, you know, I really do notice the polarity when I'm visiting the island, like being there in Hawaii where you are and coming back to Canada, the mainland, where it's a lot more of that like hustle, grind culture. I do find us over here, we get caught up in that greed, in consumerism, like really just trying to take, like we never have enough. And I know you've been in Hawaii for the most part. Did you live in Connecticut at any point? I feel like you
I was
might have.
born in Connecticut,
Yeah,
first 10 years in Long Island, New York, and then where dad got his job, and then he transferred to Phoenix, Arizona till I was 24, and then I moved to Hawaii 50 years ago.
50 years
It's
ago.
home.
Yeah, the timeline there too. Like this is kind of when it all started. I'm very curious if before then, and again, times have changed, but was there a pretty polar shift for you in more of that like greed and making money and consumerism back then? Or have you always kind of lived this way?
No, that's been an evolution for me over the course of my life, realizing how important it is to, you know, it's about the moment. It's about this moment. And it's about just um being in the now and enjoying what we're experiencing. And the consumerism is a problem. The over thinking we need more, we need to buy this, we need to buy that. It's become such a problem. We have microplastics all over our beaches here in Hawaii now, and so I think there's a movement now to start doing some what do you call it? Pre cycling, pre-cycling, so that we manufacture so that things don't end up as microplastics on the beach and people aren't thinking about overconsumption. Back in the 70s, Debbie and I read a book called The New Age Economy, and this gentleman was awesome. He wrote this book about the New Age economy. He says by the year 2000, well, there will be only manufacturing quality goods that last a long time. We won't be over consuming and doing what we're doing now. And I'm like, uh-oh, we didn't go down his path. We went down the exact opposite. And so my hope is that with people doing things like what you're doing, people start to awake and realize that the important thing to do is to live in harmony and not overdo what we do in the way of building and manufacturing and consuming.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, it's taken you a long time to get there, but you are
Mhm.
you're living proof that it is possible to get there. And also, I mean, you're human. We're all human. I say like we do our best. And if you can lead with love, lead with your heart and try to do that for the most part without letting that noise kind of get into you. Because really what it is, it's all noise. It's just so
Right.
much noise around us that's like, you're not enough. Wait, you should try this thing, buy this thing, order this thing. It's really kind of like fighting off that noise and trying to come back to self, right? So I'm curious on a total different note. Yes, you live this very healthy lifestyle, you're very active. Do you ever indulge? And if so, what's your favorite treat?
Oh, good one. Yeah. Over the course of our lives together, as we explored living healthily, our treats were more, you know, things like whole wheat burritos with tortillas with peanut butter, applesauce, and raisins in them, or bananas in them, and locally grown bananas and stuff. And for the most part, I've stuck with that over the years, that my treats were more healthful. I don't have a guilty pleasure thing that I want to go to all the time or that I crave. My guilty pleasure is probably a couple too many Nalu bowls at Nalu in Kailua, the acai bowls with fruit in them, and also mocha oat milk lattes. That's one of my things that I go to. And again, what I've found is important for me is to control the quantity. I tend to just overdo even things that I like, even though it might be healthful. I'm doing too much of it. And I also, my wife is become progressively a more and more expert baker, and she bakes all these healthful, low sugar or sweetened with natural sweeteners, honey and maple syrup and stuff. But still, those things, I could sit there and eat a half of her. Well, like she just made a loaf of apple banana bread, and I wouldn't just go have one thin slice when I'd have one of those with some peanut butter and applesauce on it. I'd go and have four, and then I would suffer. And so now I'm better with my mantra of knowledge, discipline, quantity, and quality. I'm better about looking at those things and going, maybe I'll have a sliver, but maybe I'll just not do it. Like last night, we went out to celebrate my granddaughter's going to her first day of school today. And so Deira made this really nice dinner for us all. We had some New York steak. We had some, uh, what else do we have? Some really good quality things, a salad, some chicken. What were the vegetables? I can't even remember. But anyway, afterwards, they all said, please come again and have some ice cream. And so I went home and got my oatmeal chocolate chip cookies that I'd baked for Rebel for her first day of school as a gift to have, and warmed those up. And I had one of those. That was my guilty pleasure, but it's a healthy cookie. And they had a little bit of ice cream and my cookie from this local ice cream place in Kailua.
Yeah. Oh, I first off, congrats, Rebel, for going to school. That's huge.
I know, first day of school today,
Oh,
right while we were doing this.
that's so exciting. Okay, I need to
It
reach
is.
out to Deira and congratulate her. Um,
Thank you.
Second off, I think what I kind of grasped from all of that is ultimately what you're doing, like you're listening to your body. You're
Mhm.
listening to, okay, like what actually feels right for me? What aligns with my values or what you call your mantra? Because yes, while some like I eat ice cream. I will admit I love ice cream. I have it especially in the summer, probably a week, 1 or 2 times per week.
It's a
And
good one.
it's not for, and I like to preface this too, it's not for the, oh, I need sugar, I need milk, I need all of the stuff that's in it. It's the local ice cream companies here, they bring out new flavors every month. And I'm like, oh, I want to try these new flavors. Like, I feel like I'm turning into this ice cream connoisseur. But nonetheless, we all have a different approach to how we indulge. And I think because you are so mindful and conscious of what you're putting in your body, you can have your favorite treats. And your favorite treat, it might be an oatmeal cookie, it might be a loaf of banana bread, it maybe is ice cream one day or a Nalu bowl with, acai and fruit in it. So I'm glad you shared that. If you could give advice to, and I want to be really specific on the age here because there's people of my age, and I'm 20, 27, who are, complaining about their health already. But there's also people who are like my aunts, uncles, parents who are like 50 something who are succumbing to their age. So if you could give one piece of advice to those in their, let's say like 50s first, what would it be?
Well, it's what I say to people all the time when they say they're having health issues. As much as possible, eat whole organic foods, eliminate things like sugar, ultra processed foods, things made from cow's milk for the most part, um, and minimize them. You got to live your life, um, and try and not overconsume. Quantity is such an important thing, and macrobiotics also talks about this, and so do many other health regimens. Try not to eat a few hours before you go to sleep, uh, and then fast till you're hungry. Eat when you're hungry. Don't eat just because the clock says it's time to eat, and try and gear your life for that. I try and not restrict myself to not enjoy when my family wants to have a meal together because they say, "Oh, I'm not hungry yet." I know, so I plan. I go, okay, I'm not going to eat until dinner, or I'm not going to eat till they go out to brunch, so that I can enjoy that. So quantity and quality are very very important.
Yeah. No, those are great pieces of advice, and especially for that age range too. Speaking as someone who I work with younger adults, like people my age, roughly like 20s to mid 30s, and that tip of like fasting, it actually could be very counterproductive for someone of my age because our hormones are in this place where we need it. We need to eat, we need the fats. So for someone maybe in their 20s or 30s who is wanting longevity, like what would you say to them?
Yeah, fasting is so important that they don't teach you that. If you're feeling out of balance and not feeling right or coming down with any kind of a symptom, the first step is to water fast and wait until you're feeling cleansed. I was fortunate when I learned that early on, even though I was still over consuming and getting ill in my 20s and 30s. I knew right away, oh, I need to fast. And so I would fast at a young age until I was hungry. And sometimes that's difficult to do. Sometimes if you really throw yourself way off balance, it may take 48 hours or 72 hours to get to the point where you're hungry again if you've really put a lot of toxins into your system. And so that's a hard one for people to get their head around, but it works. If you keep putting the toxins in, your body won't eliminate and get to a balanced state and feel healthy again.
Yeah. That's interesting. I need to research fasting more, but I trust you
When
wholeheartedly.
I do want to interject real quick, because people have pointed out to me that fasting, and you'll do that when you study fasting, fasting is a very important tool, that for women it's different than for men.
Yeah.
And I'm not exactly sure the nuances of for women because it is different. Because I also recently realized or learned that one of the beauties of womanhood is the monthly period. It's an elimination. It's a cleanse,
Mhm.
and a lot of times it's thought of negatively by males and females, but it's a beautiful thing. It's a natural cleanse, and a lot of times women tend to a little bit fast during that time because they're going through what they're going through. They don't feel like eating.
Mhm.
So yeah. So, but it is important. Fasting is important. And now that I do the intermittent, they call it intermittent fasting, but basically what I do is like right now it's pushing 11 or whatever. I won't eat till 1 o'clock or 1:30 when I feel hungry, and I'll make a nice whole organic food break fast, I call it. And I think that that's an important thing to do.
Yeah. No, I think you're right and agree on that research with men and women. That's where I'm like, I don't know about especially women at my age because of the menstrual cycle and because of
Right.
hormones. But I know for men, it is so good. It can be so good to
It's
fast and
It's
especially
totally good, and I think it is good for women, but you should get various opinions, not just the ones that are all negative that women shouldn't fast, because I don't think that's fully true.
totally. It depends on where in your cycle you are. Because
Right,
yeah, so it's not like a an absolute statement, but where you are in your cycle, it can be detrimental versus not at all. So
right,
yeah, nothing absolute there. But
right.
we've been chatting almost for an hour already. Time flew by.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, I know. I want to wrap this up. We'll have to have another conversation, but just for the sake of anyone whose ears are getting tired from listening to us, I have a couple just final questions, just fun ones. First one, what would you say is the proudest accomplishment that you have related to your health?
Hmm. Coming to the place where I'm disciplined about it. I've known through my study and through my relationship with Debbie where we need to be, and she's always been very much better than I about the quantity thing that um, I'm just feeling real good about the fact that I'm now in a place where I'm disciplining myself to live what I preach and what I know that is proper to have good health, because it's quite amazing. It's quite simple, good health. It's not rocket science. It's very simple, and you just have to discipline yourself to do it because we're so all focused on food. We'll be sitting around having a real nice brunch or lunch, and then we're talking about what are we going to have for dinner, And sometimes we're a little too focused on the eating and not on the living. And I'm very proud of the fact that I now have come to a place of being disciplined that when people offer me some good thing that I normally would have gone, yeah, let me have some of that. I say, no, I'm still waiting till my breakfast or I'm still waiting till dinner tonight or whatever. And living the whole organic food thing more completely.
Yeah. No, discipline, I appreciate that answer. That's the most challenging one
It
from
is.
for I think everyone is that discipline, but I think that is absolutely something to feel proud about to be able to say, "Oh, I actually have it. My actions now align with my words." So, I love
Right.
that. If you could go back and challenge your 30-year-old self to a pickleball match, who would win?
uh, Me, 75.
Yeah?
Oh yeah. Yeah, because I played tennis for many years and was never a great tennis player. Got pretty good at but I played mostly singles, and I played at a young age, at that young age, but I had no skills whatsoever. But later in life, we took lessons and became better tennis players. And pickleball is easier than tennis. And so when I transferred from playing tennis to pickleball, I enjoyed it a lot because I was good at it. I was like, oh, I can hit the ball pretty well and volley pretty well, whereas I couldn't do it in tennis so much. And so, yeah, my 30-year-old self, my 75-year-old self at pickleball, I'm better today than I was then, which
Yeah,
is cool to say.
it is really cool. I love it. Amazing. Okay, final question. How do you define success in your life?
Sorry. Um, of course, it's what everybody pretty much says about what success in life is. Debbie and I took some awareness seminars many years ago, and they had us line up. There were like 40 of us, 45 of us, 50 of us in the big room, and line up in order of where you think, and because we'd gotten to know each other over the previous 3 days, so everybody in the order of what you think success is, or not what you think, who's the most successful in the room, and then people would elbow each other nicely, for who needed to be in the front and who needed to be in the back and what have you. And ultimately, it came down to, did you have a family and some children and other family members around you, uncles and aunties and grandparents that you were close to, and that enrichment. It wasn't about the financial success, although that allowed you to be more at peace of mind, because the financial success is an important item to success too, but not in the way we think of it in the Western world, just to be comfortable. It's one of the reasons I feel so blessed is now I'm not super wealthy, but I live in paradise and I don't have to worry about how the bills are going to be paid each month. And I have two wonderful children that have partners and or good friends that I'm close to. I have two grandchildren that are just amazing and that I'm getting to relive bringing up children again as an older person. And so success is that family, friends, and having those people around you that you love and care about, and having the health to do those things and to be able to do a podcast like this with you. That's success.
I love that answer so much. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, Dave. I feel so grateful to know you and like thank you to De'Ara, like you just said, your daughter, one of my best friends, for having people in her life that you get to share those relationships and that presence with. This conversation, I want to say it was one of my favorites that I've had so far. And yeah, I can't wait to just do more of this. We'll have to have another one. Is there anything before we wrap up that you feel like you wish you said, you wish you shared that maybe you didn't?
Um, just how important this subject is, and that you're doing such a great service to spread the word of health and how to be healthy, and that people don't have to suffer unnecessarily. And I just feel enriched by the fact that I'm getting to know you better and that your podcast is awesome. I got to listen to a few episodes, and I hope that we continue to enrich this relationship going forward.
Oh, we definitely will.
All right.
Thanks,
Good
Dave.
job.
Thank you.
All right. Aloha.